this may sound a little dramatic. He was the soul of the franchise. Sean developed that part of the organization.
Brandon Beane has drafted 58 players since Josh Allen. 2 are Pro Bowlers. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Like, we sit there and I can sit here and say, culture matters. Talent wins you championships.
Now, from the Connors and Ferris podcast studio, this is the Buffalo Plus podcast.
All right, we are live back here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Obviously, this is an emergency podcast. The Bills have announced that they have fired head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons with the team. Brandon Beane also will now be getting a promotion. Not only will he be general manager of the team, but he's also taking football operations over as well. And a lot of conversations on social media happening right now. Mike, I want to just get your take, though, as the Bills will now be looking for a new head coach.
My head's spinning right now with this. And I know a lot of you wanted Sean McDermott fired, so you got your wish. I thought of all years, this was not the year to fire Sean, but the team made a decision. Brandon Beane won, in my opinion, this is not sourced. In my opinion, he won a power struggle. I think there was something, obviously, we all saw it going on. I thought it would be, if anything, it would have been the other way. But the fact that Brandon Beane is now head of football operations also tells me in the new power structure, he is between the ownership group and the new head coach because he's picking the head coach, and it's not going to be Sean McDermott. Flaws for McDermott, they did this same result in many years now. I can see the idea of doing it. I was just surprised with the roster they put on the field this year that it's the head coach who goes.
Stunned.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sitting there eating breakfast with the kids. This was not what I had on the docket for today. We were going to do a podcast recapping, kind of decompressing after the immediacy of the podcast that we did in Denver. Mm-hmm. We were going to talk about Joe Brady, Josh Allen, all of these kind of things. And yeah, just did not see this coming. And also in the sense of, Mike, you kind of touched on it. Like, you tweeted it, I tweeted it. We want to hear from you and your comments, obviously, as well. Thought this was Sean's best season.
Yeah.
Thought this was Sean's best season in 9 years in Buffalo, maybe outside. Because honestly, in 2017, he made mistakes too. So like that was like great to like end the drought. But I thought this was Sean's best season coaching a team that, and I saw Diana Rossini had tweeted something along the lines of, and again, these are all sources and all of the things that were going on, but Diana Rossini saying, from conversations with people in the Bills organization, the sense I got is that it felt there were opportunities to win Saturday in Denver, officiating or otherwise. Leadership felt a change was necessary after coming up short for the Super Bowl yet again. I understand that. And if you want to say, keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. I understand all of that stuff. But I kind of responded and said, like the touchdown in the final minute against your 5th string corner, because you no longer have Jamarcus Ingram because Darius Slay never showed up and you made that move. Or the touchdown at the end of the half when you had your 5th safety that was in the game in Darnell Savage. Like, I never looked at that game in the weird scope of this. And I know this is how I was almost relieved that it wasn't a coaching blunder as to why they lost that game.
Yeah.
I guess that was how I, like, when I sat down and on the flight back to Denver, I was like, I'm kind of relieved that we're not sitting there going, Sean shouldn't have done that.
Coach's decision.
We sat there and you said, were there any coach's decisions that we said, Sean should have gone for it, should have done this, should have done that? I never looked at that game and said, coaching was why the Bills lost. 5 turnovers were a big reason why they lost. I didn't see that as a coaching blunder by any way.
Yeah, I was stunned. You were the one that called me, and I was still in bed because I was being lazy, and I was like, I watched the games yesterday, and I saw the catch call in the Rams game. I was like, wow, classic. And it was thinking the season's over, all this stuff, and then for you to call me, I was like, what? It was so stunning. And I know there were some people saying like, they've wanted this. Well, like you've said, you have gotten what you wanted. But I do think if this was really a make or break season for McDermott, I really struggle with the fact that some of the talent on this team, and you could say, yes, Josh Allen and James Cook, phenomenal. And they are, but the pieces around that and outside of that, I thought Sean did a phenomenal job. And the injuries were such a big issue for this team. I think Sean McDermott is a hell of a coach, and you're seeing some reactions from players. Jordan Phillips talking about how he's sick to his stomach, best coach he's been around. That's what Jordan Phillips is saying. And so the Bills have decided to move in a different direction. Like I said earlier, Brandon Beane now getting a promotion, but I think a lot of fans are still trying to wrap their head around this decision, Mike, from Buffalo.
Yeah. We don't have the talent to win, Michael says. That's not on Sean. Even Stephen A. Smith says y'all scapegoated McDermott. And I know we're talking specifically about the last game and the way they went out, because that's the only logical reason, and it's a big reason, to move on from a head coach, is that you feel like he can't get past these certain points. That's a fair criticism because they've been in these spots
100%.
over the period of time. Left unsaid, and Jenna hinted at it there, certainly when she's talking about the players, is what he has built, why they've been able to not have a year like the Ravens had or the Bengals had, or God, even the Chiefs, and I know they've won the championship, where it just crumbles. Never crumbled under Sean. They were still able to get it there. But the idea that Sean McDermott is out this season really does stun me. And I know we have plenty of time to talk about it. It just kind of, I never would have thought that Sean's not leading them into the new stadium next year because of all the things.
Truly.
Because and then the question is, what about Josh Allen? Because you guys can say whatever you think. Josh Allen and Sean McDermott had a very good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the article we just read about was that Josh would stop over the house, have dinner
weekly,
and talk with the kids and hang out. I mean, I'm not saying that means Josh wanted him, that never thought there was issues, because there always is issues with the coach.
Again, we're not being naive, or I know I've said before on this channel, the fact of, I feel like I've turned into the Sean McDermott apologist, and I've made the comments that it's easier to blame Sean for things because nobody has a go Sean go sign, and there's no Sean McDermott jerseys that fans go and buy. But it is just, it's shocking because of the culture. And I've said before, I think we talked about it when we went to Jacksonville, where we talked about this exact topic, right? Was Sean coaching for his job in Jacksonville? And I said, you move on from coaches when the locker room quits for the coach, and you can see it. Teams feel it. You can see it with your eyes.
Yeah.
When you're like, this just isn't working anymore. I never got that sense from the Bills team. And to your point, Mike, like, they never have collapsed. They have never crumbled. And we've talked about how important culture is. And I just look at culture being important. Talent's important too.
Yeah.
And they have drafted I saw the stat that Ben Solak posted that Brandon Beane has drafted 58 players since Josh Allen. 2 are Pro Bowlers. That's Pro Bowlers.
Oh.
Cook and Knox.
I mean,
yeah, that's right.
How many would be all pro for draft picks? Ray Davis?
Okay.
In terms of first team, I'm saying.
Yeah, first team.
I'm saying that's also not. Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Like, and we sit there and I can sit here and say, culture matters. Talent wins you championships.
And
talent.
I will apologize to all of you guys. I think we all agree on this. People ask me, what's the chances of Sean getting fired? And I said 0.0. Like, I didn't think this was happening. And I felt even more so as they won the game in Jacksonville, and the way the game played out in Denver. I did not think that was on the head coach. And so I was wrong. I mean, but the reaction from inside the building too is,
I just think about
stunned.
What that reaction was like the players and the teams. I said to you, it was very strange that they had not announced the end of the season press conferences. Because usually after the season, they announce open locker room, you go to the locker room, and then it's okay, we're going to have Sean McDermott talk at this time and Brandon Beane talk at this time. And I was like, that seems very strange to me that they haven't said anything.
I want to ask you about something because you mentioned it when we were flying back yesterday about the emotion of the team.
Yeah.
And a sense of something. Do you think?
Well, here's what I thought. And I told this to you when we were waiting at the gate to go back to Rochester. But when you are that emotional and that raw and there's that much, things have to change. Like I feel like it's to the point where things break down, where it's like, we need to do something. Now, in my head, I thought that meant they would move on from Brandon Beane. I thought Sean McDermott, the way he's coached this team, the resume that he has, and the belief that the team has around him, that I felt like he was such a permanent fixture. Truly, that's what I thought. And I thought, Beane, some of the picks that have been made, some of the decisions, some of the free agent signings, I could see why there would be maybe a need for the Bills to move in a different direction. And then waking up today, they obviously did decide to make a change, but they stuck with Brandon Beane, now giving him a promotion and firing Sean McDermott. But I just think, to me, when you see that much emotion, seeing Josh crying the way he was, seeing the locker room that emotional, I feel like almost that's a point where it's like, hey, we got to go to like counseling. Like, it's like, we got to figure this out. And obviously the Bills decided a breakup was better instead.
Stability is so rare in the NFL, but also so valuable. We talked about whether it's coordinator position. And what I also been thinking about today, there's got to be more change coming, because you're going to get a new head coach who is going to want to bring in his staff.
Yeah.
So you're getting a whole new staff, and this roster has been assembled poorly or good, for Sean McDermott's team. I expect now a lot more changes to come to this roster.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I look at that and I say, like, there's going to be now
there will be a different head coaching philosophy. And with every head coach comes a philosophy and the fundamentals that make them the team that they are. And Sean, obviously more defensive-minded head coach, and he had the way he wanted to build his roster. Whereas now you're going to have a lot of players that are still from that old philosophy, but you're going to have a new philosophy that will probably value different things and do things in a different way. And you're right about coaches. Coaches a lot of times will be with a certain head coach and then they leave, and that means the other coaches are going with them.
Yeah.
Or you have a new coach coming in and they have their guys that they want to bring in. There will be an influx of new for a team that has surrounded themselves with so much continuity
and success. I think that's an important thing that we have to address too. This wasn't a floundering Steelers team that was going 8-8 every single year. This is a team that won 5 straight division titles. And so, like, to your point, the only thing I'll push back on you saying is that, like, yes, he's a defensive-minded head coach, but it wasn't like he was running a 1950s offense. Like, he wanted a physical team.
Yeah.
But to sit there and say, like, again, if you want to go bring in, and we can get to in a minute, like, who's next? Like, if it is a Clint Kubiak, if it is an offensive-minded coach,
Brian Dable,
you're going to have to bring in different pieces to fit that. Like,
1,000%.
I'm echoing your point,
Yeah.
like, where I think you're right. That's where I see this as major changes are going to come to this roster.
Well, I'm going to say this. Brandon Beane better have an idea of who he wants as the head coach, because you're in this spot. I mean, at least the idea, and you would think he does, because if you're selling this to Terry Pagula, you're saying we got to do this now because there's openings, and people like Brian Dable, who he's up for, which job was it? The Titans.
Yeah.
Head coaching job, coordinator jobs. Like, if you want to make a move, you got to do it. Clint Kubiak is with Seattle. Highly thought of OC. He's doing it with Sam Darnold now, a guy who hasn't been a head coach. I will say this. Sean's defensive philosophy may be the type of thing they feel they want to move off of in this case. I think that is an easier change than it is Josh Allen, because you have established that offense. Like, that offense doesn't, except for the wide receiver position, you have your own line, you got your running back, you have your quarterback. It's not like you're changing any of those things. That would be the part I would say, you better bring in somebody who fits with Josh Allen, right? As far as who's
Absolutely.
going to be running things.
Right, but we had already said that like the offense needs to be retooled.
Yeah.
Like I'm now thinking this whole roster is going to be reset. Like this isn't moving on from Stephon Diggs and things like that. Like this is, like I said, coordinators, guys that have been there, and players like Jenna said that fit what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
You're now going to have to retool everything.
Yeah.
And defensively, I don't see Bobby Babich now staying
I don't see that
because
either.
the new head coach is going to want his defensive coordinator.
Also, I don't know if Joe Brady is staying,
Correct.
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I completely agree.
Joe
And-
Brady's had 3 head coaching jobs in this past week.
Head coaching interviews.
Head
yeah.
coaching interviews.
Yes.
Sorry.
I do think too, people are saying, some people in the comments are saying, you know, I'm happy they moved on for Sean and all that stuff. I think you can have your opinions, of course. He has been the most successful Bills head coach since
Marv leaving.
Marv.
Yeah.
And so for him to be fired, it is shocking looking at the record. And I know sometimes the national media, like they needed to make a change, you know, he didn't get over the hump. I just don't think that this was the year that if you're going to make a major change, I don't think it was Sean McDermott that held the Bills back from the Super Bowl.
And I would also say this for Brandon Beane. There's certainly multiple reasons to be critical of the roster decisions that he has made. Some better than others. You know, you could go back to the Von Miller move and say it was a good move. Guy had an injury. It didn't work out. All those things. But I would think that even if you take a step back and look, this is the worst year he's had as general manager.
No question.
Because it just, you know, some of it was injuries too. They tried on defense. They drafted a bunch of guys. We have no idea, you know, who can really play, but every one of them seemed to get hurt. They brought in free agents to help in wide receiver. Did not work. The whole wide receiver conversation fell on him. And he, you know, I saw Jeremy White put out a poll this morning on WGR. If you had to move on from one of them, which one would you have moved on from? And the results were 92% Beane, 8% McDermott from the fans. And I think if you would have done that poll, go back any other year, it would have been not 92 to 8, but it would have been more for Sean.
We've talked about this on the channel.
Right.
Like we aren't
Yeah.
the homers of everything's perfect and things like that. I feel like we've been and Beane drafted Sean, and Beane has assembled a 50.
Josh, yeah.
Sorry, words are hard right now. Drafted Josh and has assembled a divisional winning, perennial contending roster.
I'm just so curious.
Taron Johnson just posted on his IG stories, SMH.
Yeah, with the you to your point, Dan and Jenna, about major changes. Boy, this is not going over well. Now, players are resilient. This is the sport they play. There are changes made. They're not going to be happy about it. But I do think this opens up change of almost anybody
Oh, for
on
sure.
the roster outside of, you know, I mean, it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And Josh, I don't know what he knew. I cannot imagine that this decision certainly was not official without talking to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean that Josh had to approve it, but he certainly would have been given the heads up that we are going to do this. And look, it's the owner's decision, right? It
Correct.
has to be the owner's decision, but he had to have been led in that direction or put in that direction. And look, Brandon Beane got a promotion.
Yeah.
So it's Brandon Beane leading this way for the new head coach. But you are going to see this. I have seen people comment here that McDermott, the players, you know, he was too much a player's coach. He was this and that. Listen, you can say what you want about Sean's decision making. You can say what you want about his defense and all these things. Dan said it a bunch of times, and you just said it, Jenna. They didn't lose the room. There is the utmost respect for Sean in that building, and that's not why he's out. He's out because there was a power struggle, and the general manager won.
Yeah.
And they're going to go in a different direction. And so some of these other things, like we can talk about some of the names.
Yeah.
Cam Wolf tweeted, talked to 3 players this morning who are just learning news. Head coach Sean McDermott has been fired. They were all shocked. One texted, WTF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sheed Manic, thank you for the super tip, saying shout out to all the Bills beat reporters who thought that this wasn't going to happen. So yes, we were wrong. We
Well, you know
did
who else,
not.
do you know who else didn't think this was going to happen? The Bills players.
Yeah. And Sean McDermott.
Yeah. Like, hey, if you're one of those people that wanted Sean gone, congrats. Like, you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
To that, I have always said, careful what you wish for. Like, I've always thought that going back to the 13 seconds here, or coming up short where Tyler Bass misses the field goal at home when you had Kansas City at home in the playoffs. What's out there that you are certain will be better than what you have? And that's my only concern. I understand if you want to sit there and say, and list the stats, and I'm sure people will say it, that it's been, 7 years with a head coach and quarterback that haven't made a Super Bowl appearance. They don't make them. Like the Elway comparison, the Peyton Manning comparison. I understand all of that. And that's valid and fair. Like, Sean's not without faults and flaws. But all I'm saying is that be careful what you wish for, because what you've had has been pretty good.
It'll be interesting to see the candidates, because obviously this job goes to number one.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, you could
Allen,
say, Baltimore's a good job, Pittsburgh's a good job, right? Because they've been teams that have won. But obviously the Bills, with number 17 as your quarterback, goes to the top of anybody's list in terms of, somebody's mentioning like Clint Kubiak here. And he's with Seattle. They may very well go to the Super Bowl. But if the Bills contacted Clint Kubiak now and said, we want you to have this job, that's the kind of place a coach is going to want to go to. So I'm not disagreeing that they can't get their choices. The question is, who are those choices?
You would like to think that they got a plan in place when they're doing this, when they are, but I just can't get over the suddenness of this decision, how sudden it does feel. And if we're thinking this is sudden, I can't imagine how players are feeling right now.
Yeah, Jimmy Doyle, the rest of the AFC East is relieved right now.
Yeah. I agree. I'm
going to throw a few names out there to tell you that just stop. Rex Ryan is talking about Bill Belichick.
Horrendous.
Oh.
Yeah. Rex is clownish on the air. And Bill Belichick,
Rex also, after he said Belichick, he said himself.
Of course he would say himself.
Yeah.
People talking about John Gruden. John Gruden is not coming to Buffalo. I know you're going to say, well, you said Sean McDermott wasn't getting fired. John Gruden hasn't coached. He's got a lawsuit with the league. He has screwed up quarterbacks after he won the Super Bowl. They're not going for somebody like John Gruden to coach Josh Allen. But there are people out there that, will love the opportunity to coach Josh Allen in this case. But I don't know, like you said, and by the way, like you guys are saying about staff, this is Bobby Babich is going to be gone. He'll be going with Sean probably wherever he goes, because Sean's going to get a job. If he wants to coach right away, he's getting a job.
Now immediately becomes a very attractive head coaching candidate. Maybe he goes to Cleveland. Maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. Like, I don't know.
Tomlin is also under contract. So if you want Tomlin, you have to trade to get Mike Tomlin, which we have said before does not make any sense.
Yeah.
Also, like, I think Stefanski is a great head coach, offensive minded guy. He's already been hired by Atlanta. So, like, to some respects, you're behind with a coaching search. Guys are already interviewed. Guys are already taking calls and talking with teams. Brian Dable has already interviewed for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job. And he's also been interviewed for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator job, which would be a great fit for him.
Yeah.
So, like, I almost say, like, you're even not, I understand Clint Kubiak, but, like, you're not even necessarily getting the pick of the litter.
You're making a good point, because what I just said was, when people are saying you guys didn't know about it, people around the league didn't know about it either. A lot of times this is floating out there and people are like, hey, change is going to happen in Buffalo. So that would mean every guy out there looking is keeping one eye on Buffalo, right? And Stefanski or somebody like him is sitting there going, hey, Buffalo could be in play. And then they wait. No one around the league expected this to happen right now.
Yeah. I have a question. So Dominic's saying Josh had to sign off on this. Disappointing. Do you think it was Josh had to sign off on this or Josh was told of this? Now, this is speculation, of course, but what do you make of that? Because to me, I could see it more like we tell Josh this situation that's happening.
100%. It cannot be Josh.
You don't let your quarterback decide the direction of the organization.
No, but he's
made aware.
But But people are theorizing like Josh was told this. That's why he was so emotional at the end of the game. Justin saying that. I don't think it was that either. I really don't.
No, like we said before, Josh was
upset
because for the first time in the 5 playoff losses that have been heartbreaking, he had a big factor in it.
And he's going to feel this, that he helped get Sean fired.
Yeah.
Just like
as
the way
great as he's
just
been.
like, remember how hard he took Dorsey?
Yeah. I was thinking about, he took it really hard after Dorsey was fired. And then now I just can't believe we're having an emergency podcast that Sean McDermott was fired.
Mike, you talked about it too. And going off your point, how shooketh we are. Not only that, I don't know if you talk about you have to have ducks in a row if you're going to make this move and shake up the organization to its core. Like Sean McDermott was the spokesperson. He's been the spokesperson of this team.
Longer than Josh. Yeah.
Like Josh is the face of it, but Sean's the voice. So you are now going to have a whole new voice. And you're also going into a brand new stadium. I don't think you go with some first time head coach.
I also agree with that.
Like, I think you have to go with somebody that has head coaching experience.
I agree because we talk about with, Joe Brady, like giving the keys of the Ferrari to a guy with a learner's permit in terms of when it was Ken Dorsey. But like, you can't give a team that's a perennial, Super Bowl contender a first-year head coach. I agree. I think there's the trials and tribulations that come with learning how to be a head coach. And you would hope to think that would be ironed out when you're trying to get a team to a Super Bowl.
So Dominic Orsini says if Josh wanted McDermott to stay, he would still be there. That's kind of unfair to say. Like, agreed. I think Terry Pagula owns the franchise. As big as Josh is, it's sort of like, it's not the same thing, but it's sort of like with the draft. It's like, oh, Josh liked this player and that player. He is not breaking down the tape here. If Terry Pagula with Brandon Beane made the decision to fire Sean McDermott, they are not going to say, well, we wanted to fire him, but Josh said no. I don't think that's Josh either. He does play for the Bills, and Sean McDermott is this coach, and he has great respect for him, but I don't think he's going to go in there and say, now, if they asked his opinion beforehand, what do you think about this? And about that, I think he would have given high marks to Sean McDermott based on the way Josh is. I don't think he would have been saying, we need to make a change. So that being said, I can't imagine that the first priority for the new head coach is what you can do with Josh Allen and this offense, which is why I believe, to your point of major changes, it is sweeping changes for this now.
1,000%.
And
offense and defense.
And we kind of talked about it off the air on the plane ride back, getting ready for the end of the year press conferences. And we kind of were grinding our teeth because I said, Beane will come out and say, we're not shopping at the high end stores this offseason because of the salary cap. He's going to have to, because of the new coach. And like we talked about this roster turnover that they're going to have to do. They will have to eat contracts. They will have to move on from players and retool this. We are 2 days after the end of the season.
Yeah.
But it seems like almost I guess I wouldn't be shocked if there's a step back, and that wouldn't even be at the fault of, it won't even be at the fault of the new head coach. I'm not like already putting it out there of where people say you root against Gabe and all this stuff. No, but there will have to be, like they did in 2017, ripping some things back to the studs, because to retool Connor McGovern, David Edwards, what are you doing there? You got to re-sign Osiris Torrance. You're going to need to find wide receivers. Like, you're going to need to find some linebackers. Like, there are massive holes. Nobody looked at this Bills team. That was the one thing that really pissed me off about when the national media was saying this is their year. You can't look at this roster and say this is a complete team. You just can't.
Jason, Beane should have been fired, missed on a ton of picks, 0 depth. Cole, Beane better earned this with better scouting, drafting, and trades now. He blew it last year. I mean, this is all fair to what this.
Josh Palmer, Joey Bosa, Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hoyt. Beane signed 2 players this offseason that missed half the season because of suspensions.
Yeah, and the whole free agency thing has been a mess.
This is an interesting comment from Jace saying, when you remove the foundation of a building.
That's funny. When you were talking about Sean, you said he's the voice. This may sound a little dramatic. He was the soul of the franchise in the sense of it all goes back. Josh is the player. Josh is incredible. Josh is why every coach who's out there would want to come to Buffalo. Sean developed that part of the organization. You listen to guys like, when Poyer and Hyde talk about what Sean did, and they helped in the beginning, and he built that trust. That doesn't get replaced by a brilliant offensive mind who walks in and says, this is what we're doing. And look, you look at the guy like in Chicago.
That just hit hard.
Well, you look at the guy in Chicago who is doing a really good job with that organization. They lost in such Bills fashion last night. Tremendous play by the quarterback, crazy turnover, bad call goes against them, and they lose in overtime, right? But Chicago was coming off being crap, like nothing.
Yeah.
They didn't have any culture.
Ben
Johnson brought like that toughness, that intensity, that we're not going to take crap from nobody.
Right. And Caleb Williams looks great, and their future looks good, and all those things. But in terms of what the Bills have in the building right now, the culture goes with Sean. It doesn't mean you can't build it up, but it's going to be totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Josh, and you even mentioned the O-line. Because of some of the salary cap issues, there's going to be issues there. New offensive coordinator. Also, there's going to be a new offensive line coach, whoever he's bringing in.
Yeah.
And Aaron Kromer did a really good job. That is a strength of the team that isn't named Josh Allen. So
we talked about it before too. Like we kind of
stop with the John Gruden. Everybody with John Gruden.
Like we laughed about and made fun of it at times about bringing players back. Those players didn't come back because of Brandon Beane. It may be a part of it, but they came back to be coached by Sean McDermott and to be back with that culture. So Mike, when you said like the soul leaves, like that hits me hard.
Yeah.
And I a lot of the fans, I feel like this morning, outside of some John Gruden commenters, like I think that most realize that to Jeremy White's poll this morning. And I think if they don't realize that now, they will in the coming months.
Jeremy White, who mentioned about the poll and stuff of WGR, said, well, he tweeted this out. Well, the little birdie that told me this morning that McDermott was going to be gone, parentheses, that I did not believe at the time, included in that message that Clint Kubiak would be the top of the list. That is what Jeremy White is saying, that someone told him. He tweeted this about 30 minutes ago. So that to me is...
Chuck Traub just texted me and said, I feel like my favorite aunt died while at my funeral for my favorite uncle.
Wow. That's
it's very Chuck.
Nobody's dead. Nobody's dead.
Yeah, look, Clint Kubiak is a talented coordinator, family of coaches or players. And
do you know what helps Clint Kubiak? Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, players help.
He's
doing it with Sam Darnold, who's a nice player, and he's Josh's friend. The world gets easier when you have Josh Allen, but it's
easier when you have players to help Josh Allen too.
Yes, but it's nice to start with Josh. It's just a rare thing when a quarterback like this, with his success, is
going to be looking for.
And listen, Lamar's in the same spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing. Absolutely, Harbaugh was that guy for the organization, and he's out. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't.
Also, it's very funny when like my friends text me, like obviously like Benny texted you to relay the news because I just wasn't on. I wasn't on watch. Like when they fired Rex, we were like glued to our phones on Christmas Eve.
Knew.
Yeah,
We were like, this is coming.
Yeah.
I was literally having breakfast with the kids. When are we going to go in today? We'll record something. Like this is just did not see it coming. And so like the phone of my friends, like asking and expecting me to have some level of insight and intel when I can just sit there and say, well, the players didn't know it either. And how do I know that? Because of their reactions.
Yeah.
So,
and like I said, you know who else didn't know it? Adam Schefter didn't know it. And they're talking with all the agents. That's the point I was trying to make to people. The agents for these coaches, coordinators, they talk to everybody. They hear what's out there.
Yep.
There was no talk of Sean being out at all. So because nobody was sitting around going, I mean, look what we've already had in this offseason, right? With the opening in Pittsburgh that happened in World War II was the last opening, and an opening in Baltimore. Like they already had those stunning openings and things that you wouldn't have expected. To add this one when they added it is a surprise to everybody. But in terms of
Elite John commenting in, is Beane and Josh talking to the media today, especially after the firing of McDermott? Also, do you think Josh had to okay it? Again, I don't think Josh had to okay it. We think it was more of a, they obviously had to let Josh know, but I don't think you go through a decision like this through your quarterback, even if he is Josh Allen. But we have not heard yet if the Bills will be talking today. They usually do. They will have to do a press conference, but they have not notified us as of right now at 11:30 on Monday that they are having a press conference today.
And Brandon Beane, from the start of his career in Buffalo, has been a very popular person with the fan base.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, big baller Beane, all the stuff that went on. He is getting this promotion at, I believe, his low point with the fans. And then we're seeing it a lot here. And I would say he's got a lot of pressure now because he's picking the coach. He is got to fix the roster. Like there's only one other person to blame if it doesn't work now, besides Brandon Beane, is Josh Allen, right? Who else is there to blame? He's going to be the only one you know for sure that is back, if you're following me. Like
if you're Brandon Beane.
Right, if you're Brandon Beane.
Yes.
That's my point. Is if you're Brandon Beane, you're like, okay, this is I get my shot here to do it with somebody other than Sean McDermott. And it's at a time when the roster, I think of these last few years, it's at the low point of the roster in terms of talent, players under contract that you want, players you can't get rid of, bad salary cap position. All those things are in play.
Yeah.
Not ideal. If you were hiring a GM, that is a tough place to start, where this roster is, where the salary cap is. So he's inheriting his own caused issues while he goes out and gets a new head coach to hand the keys of Josh Allen over to run the team.
So here's another important distinction to make clear now for all the fans that are asking, like, well, what are they doing? You know, what's the next step? League rules prevent the Bills from interviewing candidates on playoff teams, Patriots, Broncos, Rams, and Seahawks, and they can't speak with candidates from Super Bowl teams until after February 8th. That puts candidates like Clint Kubiak, Davis Webb, shout out Davis Webb, Chris Shula, Mike LaFleur, Vance Joseph, and Nathan, is it Scalise? Scalise?
I don't know how it's pronounced.
Okay, off the table for now and possibly into February if those teams, for the teams that make the Super Bowl. So if you think that you got Clint Kubiak and that's your number one guy, and we have seen also, let's not take this off the table for, now again, I understand it is Josh Allen, but you have to be damn well sure if you're going to wait until February, because coaches are going to start to get hired. Teams are already in their third rounds of interviews with head coaches. And if you don't get Clint Kubiak, who you may not be able to talk to until February 8th, is a big big gamble.
And the biggest gamble there is this is a man who's never been a head coach.
Bingo.
And you don't have any relationship. I'll use Daboll as an example.
Yep.
They know Brian Daboll. Now, they can talk to Brian Daboll today if they want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They know him. He's been in the building. He is tight with Josh Allen. He's run this offense, all those things. Failed as a head coach with the Giants and got fired. But it's a little bit of a different thought in Buffalo because he's a Buffalo guy and all that. But to the Kubiak point, if the guy you were waiting for, and I'm just going to, Dan, your head's going to explode when I say this. If the guy you were waiting for was Josh McDaniels, because he's been failed, but he's been a head coach in the league before.
Yep.
You have years of Josh McDaniels in the league. Like if for some reason you loved him and wanted him back, or there's somebody you wanted back, it would be a little different to say, we're waiting for this guy.
Yeah.
We know him. Let's say Daboll was coordinator in one of the playoff teams. We know him. We can wait. Clint Kubiak? I don't mean you can contact it. They'll contact his agent. They'll let the agent know we're really interested. But you haven't interviewed him. You don't know what he thinks.
He doesn't have any connections
and
with
you
Josh.
Also, if you're that guy, you put yourself in a big position of being able to demand things because you're like, they're waiting for me. So when the time comes, you're like, I want this, I want that. Because you need to know,
and again,
who's your staff? Who do you want to bring in?
Correct. And not only that, the head coach is going to decide his staff.
Absolutely.
So if you don't get your guy till February 8th or 9th, defensive coordinators are gone. And you're getting the 9th best defensive coordinator available. Like, you are behind the 8 ball here.
People keep mentioning Joe Brady. Now, in fairness for Joe, he's interviewed for who? Miami? Baltimore?
Yeah.
Was there one other one?
I thought he had 3.
Head coaching opportunities. I think if you fire Sean McDermott and elevate from within on Joe Brady, that is tough. And that's not a slight on Joe. That is just, this is your big move, is to elevate from within.
Yeah.
A guy that people were certainly frustrated with at times during this season. That would be the case. I think you go outside the current organization to find your next head coach who brings with him his offensive staff, who brings with him his defensive coordinator.
I do think that the way you're saying it, just so fans know, like, you're not going to fire a defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott and hire another defensive-minded head coach. This to me says you're going to hire a guy that brings his offense, is an offensive-minded guy, and go from there. But the standards for this team are so high. And like you said, the influx of newness, that can sometimes be a good thing. But also, just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. So I'm very curious what this will look like. Honestly, if I'm Brian Daboll, like, if you're the Bills, he obviously grew up in Buffalo. There's that connection. He coached Josh. Like, they have a rapport. If I'm the Bills, I want to find someone that I know Josh likes. Like, I know that might sound silly. Like, you want to find the best head coach. Obviously, you want to do that. But if they already had a rapport with Josh and the two got along, I mean, that would be massive. But I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
I just never truly thought that this would be the case. And someone commented earlier, like, explain to me how Brandon Beane kept his job and got a promotion. Because I think some fans just don't really understand.
I would say, if you want to make major changes on the team, it goes with the head coach, right? If you want substantial changes, you fire Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
Because you're changing the defensive philosophy. You are changing you're like, to Jenna's point, you're bringing in an offensive coach. So even if it's similar, it's different, right? From the top, you are changing things immediately. Yes, if you change just the general manager, it becomes more of a, let's see what this person can do to help the current roster. When you're making this change, it is sweeping. Obviously, the only thing bigger would have been just to blow everybody out and bring in a new GM.
If you wanted, that would honestly make a little bit more.
So I thought about that.
But then it's a lot of.
So Beane's got all the scouting draft coming up, combine coming up. It doesn't make like you're a little bit behind there. That's a lot of times why GMs get fired, I feel like, in the season.
Yeah.
Except you didn't just keep him on.
I know.
You promoted him.
Correct.
And
That's what I'm
he's
saying. People
yeah,
are saying like, Jenna, he got promoted because he fired Sean. But Pegula didn't have to then promote him as well.
That's where
Right.
I was saying. And a lot of the times the messages that we saw, which are kind of what we had heard along lines for Joe Shane in New York, was Brandon Beane, Schefter had Brandon Beane is staying on for now and his job is safe. And it was a lot of like the for now. And so in my head, I was like, does that mean he goes through the draft and is then moved on from? The promotion means that's not a possibility. He is there. He is Pegula's right-hand man.
And like I said, the structure now goes Pegula, Beane,
Everybody else.
Well, head coach now is third. And in the current roster, it is 1A, 1A. Pegula and Beane and McDermott until today, because they were equals. They were on the same all those things were happening. So we're just waiting to see when we get an opportunity to talk to Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula.
Yeah.
Terry rarely, if ever, talks publicly, but he's got to talk now.
Dolphins, Ravens. I'm trying to think of Joe Brady's jobs, his interviews. Ravens and Dolphins are the ones I'm seeing.
Yeah. 2 head coaching opportunities for him. But I would say, depending on listen, you bring in Clint Kubiak, Joe Brady's not staying. I think Joe
100%.
Brady would know.
Yeah.
Joe Brady probably already knows right now. I'd be very surprised if Joe Brady isn't interviewed for the head coaching job with the Bills. Right?
That's
true.
fair.
That's usually what would happen,
Yes.
right? He would get an opportunity. And then, because they got time to do this now if they're waiting on somebody. But if there's somebody else, like I said, if it was Dable, they got to get moving on that because there's other people out there. Plus, all these jobs are open. So,
Yeah.
be ready.
Wild.
Be ready, Bills fans. And I know we're going to wrap here in a minute, but be ready, Bills fans. You're going to hear Mike Tomlin's name.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's the right decision.
To get a team over the top, that's really something to be
If the
saying
Bills
Mike Tomlin.
Fired Sean McDermott because they couldn't get over the hump, and then they bring in Mike Tomlin.
That would be wild.
That would be
Trading for Mike Tomlin.
trading for Mike Tomlin.
So you'd have to give up picks to get a mediocre quarter.
The only
head coach.
guy you're trading for as a coach is Kyle Shanahan because you're going to a different level.
Because he's had lots of late game success in the NFL.
Yes, he's a brilliant play caller and has made a Super Bowl and probably could have been at a couple of them. But in terms of you want to elevate the offense, he's a guy that can do that for you. Right? If you're making a change.
Yeah.
That's not Mike Tomlin. You're going for culture. You just fired the culture guy and you would be going for culture because that's what Mike Tomlin is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what Sean brings.
And Mike Tomlin will get another job.
Yes.
I just don't think it's for for Josh Allen in this organization.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, this changes our offseason a lot.
Yeah. Make sure you stick with Buffalo Plus. We're going to obviously have you covered. Whenever the Bills are doing their press conference in Orchard Park around this, we will obviously be there.
Beane one's sure going to be interesting.
That is going to be.
Oh, that's going to be together, right? That'll be Beane and Pegula at least.
That's interesting though, because I can't imagine they want Terry to be out there. Like, I don't know how long Terry would be at the podium for.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, he'll be there to announce the promotion of Brandon and then turn it over to him.
Yeah.
And then it'll be.
But I would imagine if they're both at the oh, okay.
Somebody else made an interesting comment too, talking, and we had mentioned the Jacoby Myers comments.
Yeah.
That Sean McDermott had said a couple of times throughout the
he had
season.
mentioned the Jamarcus Ingram.
Maybe
this had been building.
And somebody also pointed out too that
before
the
trade game, by the way, Jamarcus did.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
It was on a Hail Mary, but yeah.
You had at the trade deadline press conferences, Brandon Beane said he thinks that they had a Super Bowl caliber team. And that was what Brandon said. Super Bowl caliber roster.
And what did Sean say?
I love the guys. Brandon said, we have a Super Bowl caliber roster right now. Sean McDermott said, I love this team.
I will say this. I don't think there is a Bills fan out there who agrees with they have a Super Bowl roster. Maybe I'm wrong. Comment in if you think that. You have a Super Bowl quarterback. You got a few really good players. You do not have, doesn't mean you couldn't have made it, but you do not have a Super Bowl roster.
And again, I was never watching. I was not on the sidelines of that game going, man, there were coaching decisions that I disagreed with. And that's being objective. Like, there was a lot of times when Jenna made the good point of a big play came down to Brandon Cooks, who you signed in week 13.
Yep.
God, this whole time we didn't even mention Keon. Like, that was the guy you got to help Josh Allen.
Khair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The top draft picks have been rough.
And you have signed and extended and put your money into some guys that have not really performed well.
Yeah. Big changes.
Okay. All right. That'll do it for us. Thank you for joining us on this emergency podcast that none of us saw coming.
Tons of numbies.
Really?
This was the most we've had. 77,000 people watching throughout.
77,000?
7,700.
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, that would be.
Yeah. Aren't you people working?
Well, a lot of people are off, though.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
You said we're going to go live. And I was like, oh, it's a Monday at 10:45. What are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
People.
We'll have
tons
more. Please.
I didn't even shoot Sean walking off the field because it wasn't even in my brain.
Yeah. I get
that
it.
This could be Sean's last time walking off the field as the Bills head coach.
Yeah. I don't think Sean knew that it could be his last time.
I saw one report, and I don't know how accurate it was, from a national person that said McDermott was surprised. Now, very surprised. Like, I don't think he walked in there. I got no sense in his news conference or anything. Obviously, the refereeing part took over the news conference, but I got no sense in that.
Somebody else made was asking me, like, did you think that Sean's comments were because he was fighting for his job? And I did not get that sense at all.
No.
I saw somebody about he was pandering to the crowd. First of all, if you just heard that one clip and thought that's all Sean said was that I'm doing this for Buffalo, he had gone on and on explaining the details of what he did on the field, trying to get and by the way, to add insult to injury, the play in the game was so similar.
I know.
And I called it. I said it in the pod.
Yep.
I said, we're going to watch a play on Sunday and we're going to go, is that a catch?
Even more than any of the other ones, that one was as close to the same exact thing. And by the way, I think they were both catches. But the NFL, and then never mind. We have time to talk about that.
And they reviewed Devontae Adams' catch for 5 minutes.
And then
it was a catch.
And then at the same clowns that are the
water carriers.
Well, not just them, but the former officials.
Yes.
They all, whatever it is, they're going to agree with.
100%.
So, all right.
The Bills making this move, they think it'll be a step forward for them. We'll see what this will look like, and we'll have plenty of coverage as the Bills make big decisions down the road about what they will do at head coach. All right, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We will catch you next time here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.